Hey guys, welcome to another mix breakdown of a rock mix. Today we're going to be looking at Stay Home by Cody James MSC. His link is down in the description if you want to check out some of his other music. But today we're going to be looking at this track and everything that went into it. So let's jump right in. Okay guys, so to start off, I'm just going to let you hear a little bit of the track so you can get an idea of how this mix actually sounds and what all is happening in it. So here we go. Okay, so you get the idea. It's just a rock song. Pretty standard instrument setup, drums, bass, acoustic, a few electrics. On this one there is an organ, piano, and then a synth sound to go with the piano, and then just some vocals. So we're just going to go track by track so you can hear just each track soloed and see what processing I did on each one. We can start with the kick. Actually, I'll just let you hear the drum bus soloed first. Okay. So that's in context. And then on the drum bus, all I have is this Townhouse compressor. It's the Townhouse bus compressor from Brainworks. It's awesome on drum bus. Highly recommend it. And then next we will go to the kick. And I have the kick split into a kick in and then a sub kick. So the kick in. Oh, sorry. And then added with the sub kick. And that's just, I have this, the SSL channel on every channel, basically. I have the trigger, triggering the kick. And that's on both of them. And you can see the EQ, whoops. The EQ I'm doing. And then just some compression. Taking off about 5 dB. Go to the snare top. And then he had a snare bottom mic, but I didn't even use it. So I'm boosting quite a bit. That's 15 dB of boost at 8K. It's a very Chris Lord Algae move. You can see the other EQ cuts I'm making using the SSL compressor. Oh. And then some even more compression with the Logic compressor. This EQ was just to filter out some frequencies that were bothering me. This one is for the ring in the snare, and this one is to give it a little low-end boost. Next are the toms. I'll go to the tom section so you can actually hear them. And these are being processed with just the SSL channel. So that's the high tom that's not actually playing right now. Let's do this one. Compressing them pretty hard, as you can see. And then just some high-end snap right around 6. Oh, yeah, right around 6K, 5.7K. And then really cutting the mids hard to get that scooped tom sound. I don't do any gating. I just go and manually edit, or I use the Logic strip silence to actually get the not to gate them, but basically gating them manually. I find that it works better, and then I can adjust the fades and stuff like that, and then I can also stretch out these sections that are actually tom sections like this. So he only had one hi-hat mic and one overhead mic. So I just use these kind of as, I mean, it's not ideal, but that's just what he had, and I tried to make it work the best I could, and I still got a pretty good drum sound. So for the hi-hat, I'm just filtering out some frequencies that I didn't like, taking off some of that harshness. For the overheads, they're smashed pretty hard, high passed. And that's just a trick I like to do with the overheads is to just kind of almost treat them like a room mic sometimes and just completely destroy them with the compressor. You can see 7 to 1 ratio, taking off like 10 dB, and that's added on top of the SSL that was already compressing. So it just really, it's kind of like parallel compression for the drums almost. But I love smashing that overhead mic. And then moving on to the bass. Running it through this Ampeg from Plugin Alliance. Again through the SSL channel. Just filtering out a little bit with the high pass. Compressing a little bit here. I'm a big fan of serial compression, so you'll find me compressing things multiple times with multiple compressors. It just adds a smoother sound to me. Here's the bass EQ, just filtering out a lot of that high end that I don't need. And also adding a notch for the kick to come through right at this 50 hertz. And then another compressor that's really smashing the bass to keep the low end nice and consistent. And here's the acoustic. So we can raise this up a little bit. Okay. Going through the SSL channel, filtering out what I don't need with the high pass, low pass, boosting a little bit at 8K to add some brightness to help it cut through a little bit, and then also compressing it. Following up with a little bit more compression. And a little bit more EQ to, this is usually what happens whenever I have mixed it the first time and then come back and I'm like, wait, that's not really working. And then I'll just add a second EQ, filter out what's not working, and help it fit in the mix better. So this time, I was noticing an issue with it being too snappy, too sizzly, so I just filtered this high end out with this shelf. Rhythm guitars, using the nollie. Just has a little bit of high-end boost, filtering out what I don't need, compressing it a little bit. It's mainly what I use the SSL channels for, and then to get more precise, that's when I start getting into, Logic's EQs like this. Noticed some harshness up here, so I filtered that out. Made it work in the mix. Same thing for this one. This one just has this pedal board on it, and that was, for something that he sent me already. And then also the other rhythm guitar, pretty much same EQ, same setup. Organ, not even sure. This is, it's barely in the mix. It's just kind of there as filler. Yeah, see. Piano, also just barely in there. Strings, and I really didn't even do much to those. Except for the pad sound, I added this doubler. It's the real ADT. Works the same as the Waves doubler, just has a little bit more character. And then moving on to the vocals. He was pretty on pitch, so I didn't have to do too hardcore of melodyning. Just using some Logic pitch correction into the SSL strip, and then not doing much here, just mostly just for the EQ, a little bit of filtering. And then I go into my normal vocal chain, which starts with the RDSer. Then into the REQ. And then all the Renaissance plugins add a little bit of character to whatever you put them on, which is why I like them, especially on vocals. Then I do serial compression as well. First one at 2-to-1, second one at 4-to-1. It's just the combo that I've always liked. Fastest attack as possible, regular release for vocals. Nothing can separate this love that's in your son. And it's pretty much the same across all the vocals, except for the gang vocals, which are just like screaming. And for those, just the SSL channel, and then I'm actually yeah, I mean nothing too hardcore on those. They're really low in the mix. And then for all these, this is what everything that the vocals is being sent to. So bus 6 is going to be my room, and the room I'm using is a concert hall mid to side from Bricasti. These are just some Bricasti IRs that I have. So I'm sending a little bit there just because, you know, that's my room sound. So you can see I have everything bussed to the Bricasti. And then bus 7 is just my vocal reverb. This one is wide vocals. It's just I pretty much always use the Space Designer and just pick a different IR that I like the sound of. I can let you hear. And here's the room. Okay. So yeah, that was the vocals. That was the room sound. And then, for a delay, bus 8 is going to be the delay, and it's just normal tape delay, tempo synced, quarter note delay. Nothing fancy. Just kind of add it in. You turn it up so you can hear it, and then turn it back down just slightly so it's in the mix, but it's not super present. And then on this one, I actually have a second vocal reverb, kind of like short, long. And on that one, I'm using the R-verb. This plugin's super cool. I always, if you look over here, you can see that I always EQ my reverbs. The cool thing about the R-verb is that it already has the EQ built in, so you can actually just EQ your reverb over here. And then on this one specifically, the background vocals have a flanger on them. You can hear that from earlier. Yep. And finally, the master bus. So this is my mastering chain that I pretty much do on every single mix. Starts off with the EQ, and this is the dangerous EQ. Just boosting some high end, and that is it. I've noticed lately that I've been kind of mixing dark, so I find myself boosting the high end a lot. I mean, it's not a ton; it's less than 3 dB, but it just kind of adds that sizzle back to the mix. Just a half a dB of compression. Into the Shadow Hills mastering compressor. And then I also add a little bit of stereo width to this, just 110%, not too crazy. I really like the iron setting on this compressor. And then you can see it's taken off about a dB of compression. And then after that, it goes into the Logic's multiband compressor. I usually hit this thing pretty hard, and it really balances everything out. Just kind of evens out the mix. If you've heard the Soothe compressor to kind of de-harsh vocals, it's doing the same thing, but just kind of soothing out the mix. And then after that, it's into the loudness, so adding gain into Logic's add limiter. It's hitting it pretty hard. And then finally, I have my AB. This is what I use to AB mixes. It's a super cool plugin. Also at Plugin Alliance. Highly recommend this to just easily flip back and forth between a reference mix and your mix, and you can really dial in your mix. And if you're not referencing, you need to be referencing. I'm always going to say that because that's one of the easiest ways, especially if you're just starting out, to make sure what you're hearing is on point with what's actually commercially acceptable. So I highly recommend referencing mixes. And that is pretty much this mix breakdown. So if you'd like to watch the full mixing session, you can see those videos. It's just divided up into multiple parts of actually mixing this, and that's on this channel. And that's pretty much it. So I will see you guys in the next video.